Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. In today's live session, let's discuss the important economics articles that have appeared in various business related newspapers from 5th of March to 11th of March 2022. Let's begin the discussion. The first very important article is related to UPI 123 pay. Now what is this concept of UPI 123 pay? Let's try and understand. Before that, in the last couple of months, at various points of time, RBI governor has kept on saying that they are going to introduce a new mechanism wherein the feature phones, that is essentially the not smartphones in simple terms, will be allowed to utilize the UPI and start making digital transactions or digital payments. Having said so, please understand this. Were the feature phones allowed to utilize UPI earlier? That is before the launch of UPI 123 pay? Definitely yes. Remember this very carefully. Even before UPI 123 pay, there is a concept of NUUP, that is a National Unified USSD platform, wherein using *## the feature phones were allowed to make UPI transactions. But there were certain issues related to these particular transactions. That is essentially the customers were supposed to send multiple messages. All the service providers, that is telecom companies, did not offer this particular service. And many of them, when they offered these particular services, they charged a certain amount for these particular messages that the customers were essentially sending to provide transactions or to make transactions under this particular facility. And over a period of time, if you see, post 2016, when the UPI as a concept was introduced, the smartphones are using, or let's say the usage of UPI using smartphones has kept on increasing, both in terms of volume as well as value. Whereas usage of UPI by the feature phones actually had started declining in the last couple of years. Keeping this particular point in the mind, that is to increase usage of UPI, first point. Second, to ensure that even in this particular rural areas where the internet connectivity is weaker, we wanted to promote usage of UPI transactions. And the third one, out of all the mobile users in India, around 40 crore people are essentially, or 40 crore subscribers are essentially using feature phones. So we wanted to include them, provide better services using or for making UPI transactions. And finally, to promote financial inclusion. Is it okay? To promote financial inclusion, RBI now has announced a new system called as UPI 123 pay. Now what are the important concepts under UPI 123 pay? The feature phones now can make UPI transactions much more easily under this particular new system. Now essentially under this particular UPI 123 pay, RBI has stated that first will be interactive voice response, IVR. IVR essentially stands for interactive voice response. That is, let's imagine here is a customer, bank customer by the way, who has a feature phone. He can conduct the transactions, that is UPI transactions, using this particular system of interactive voice response system as such, right, wherein he will have to dial a particular number, right, and on the other side interaction will be conducted, that is basically a response will be provided, and based on the input of the transaction using UPI pin, the customer can conduct the UPI transactions. That is IVR, first one. Second one is, right, using missed call facility also, right, basically a number will be provided. As a customer you need to give a missed call, you will receive a call back and you will have to provide what type of a transaction you want to conduct it associated with that, and basically you need to provide even UPI pin. That is a second type of a transaction which a feature, or let's say a mobile phone which is a feature mobile phone holder can do under this particular new UPI 123 pay. Third one is a new app will be allowed to be downloaded which will provide basic facilities related to UPI even in this particular feature phone. And the fourth one is proximity based proximity sound based transactions. Now what is this proximity sound based transactions? Please be very careful. Earlier in 2017, Google Pay initially was launched in the name of Tez, and this particular concept of Tez essentially used the concept of the sound signals to make transactions. That is, imagine two people are there, either peer-to-peer or a peer-to, let's say a merchant. Both of them are using Google Tez, and both of them will use this particular, open the app. One will choose sending the transaction, sending money, and the other one will choose receiving the money. Sound signals will be sent from one mobile to another mobile, right? And within this particular sound signals, data will be transmitted. It is just like using Bluetooth. Many of us keep on using Bluetooth to transfer data from one system to another system, or from one mobile to another mobile. In the same way, sound signals will be used to transfer data from one mobile to another mobile. And the same concept is being used under this idea of proximity sound based transactions. So please be very careful. For example, what kind of questions can be asked here? If UPSC will say that the proximity sound based transaction which has been announced under UPI 123 Pay, it is the first time, or it is the first type of a transaction where sound signals are used to transfer funds. Absolutely no. This has been used earlier also. The best example is the Tez app itself. Now don't start searching where is the Tez app. Please understand, earlier this was Tez app, today it is Google Pay, right? And earlier this particular concept of transmitting, right, or sending or receiving money using sound signals, essentially they call this as cache mode, right? Under this particular app they essentially called this as a cache mode, and which was used to transfer data using sound signals itself. So these are the four types of transactions which are allowed under UPI 123 Pay. Please be very careful. Questions can be asked from any of these particular areas in the UPSC exam. Now, based on this, I've given a question here. Consider the following statements regarding UPI 123 Pay. With this, RBI for the first time has provided the ability to make digital payments using feature phones. Statement is wrong. Just now we have discussed this. Earlier there was a NUUP, or else they will use another concept, USSD. Earlier this was also there, right? Using which feature phones can basically conduct UPI transaction. So first statement wrong. Second, it is mandatory to have debit card, okay, for making transactions under this. Tricky statement but true. Statement is true. Please remember this. Sir, how debit card is used under this UPI 123 Pay? You did not tell us. Very simple. RBI simply says that you need to set up UPI pin for any kind of these particular transactions using feature phones. You need to set up a UPI pin, and the same is applicable even in the context of the smartphones also. Imagine you want to make a payment using UPI, you need UPI pin, and pretty sure you must have experienced this. Many of the times, including me, we basically forget what is our UPI pin, and using one option we can reset the UPI pin, but while conducting the resetting process, it will ask us for the debit card details. I'm pretty sure you must have experienced this. It will basically ask us the debit card details. The same thing is applicable even in the context of UPI 123 Pay. You want to use this particular facility, you want to transfer funds using feature phones itself. But first and foremost, you need to get into the onboarding process. You need to submit all the debit card details, and using that details only you will be allowed to set up UPI pin. So second statement is true. And please remember this also. I've discussed all the aspects related to UPI 123 Pay except one point. That is, are there any issues or concerns related to this? Are there any issues or concerns? Definitely yes. Various experts have raised a concern related to security related issues. How anything related to security, right? How will RBI try to prevent the frauds within this particular system? That is one issue. Second issue is requirement of debit card itself. That is the reason I am discussing this particular point here. Requirement of debit card itself has been considered as a problem for many of the experts, right? Why? Very simple. Imagine here is a bank and it has 100 customers. the bank might be willing to issue the debit card for all the 100 customers. But within this particular 100 customers, there will be a certain number of customers who may not want to utilize that debit card, or debit card has been issued, they have not activated it. So what if a customer doesn't have a debit card? Then basically he cannot use the UPI 123 Pay. Right? That becomes a concern, that becomes a limitation for onboarding or promoting financial inclusion. And the third one is, again, you expect the customers, especially in rural India, to become digital savvy. You expect them to understand all the aspects of, let's say, digital technologies, how to transfer funds, how to make a call, how to set up an UPI pin, etc. And in certain cases, this may not be correct, or this may become a prohibition itself. So these are some of the issues or concerns which have been raised by experts related to UPI 123 Pay facility. So second statement is true, right option will be option B, only 2 is correct. Let me go to the next article. Wheat exports. Basically, the market prices of wheat in the international market are actually rising up. And this becomes a facility, or let's say this provides a very good opportunity for India to promote more and more wheat exports to the international market. And if you ask me, sir, why is that the wheat prices are actually rising up in the international market? I will point my fingers towards the Ukraine invasion. Because please understand this, Ukraine and Russia account for around 25% to 30% of wheat supply to the international market. Now some of the newspapers have said it is around 25%, and some sources say it is around 30%. But if you look at the data which is provided in the article itself, that is for the year 2020 and 2021, that is the wheat season, out of the total supply of, let's say, rounding of the number, 199 million tons to the international market, Ukraine as well as Russia accounted for around 57 million tons, which comes out around 28% of the total supply to the international market. So some sources will say 25%, some sources will say 30%. Now you'll ask me, sir, in that case, which one should I choose? Simply say for the year 2021, the exports of wheat from Russia and Ukraine were around 28%. That will give you a better picture, or that will give you a better data. Now understand this, Ukraine plus Russia account for more than 1/4 of the total wheat supplies to the international market. And because of the frictions that are happening, or let's say the war that is happening between these two countries now, the exports of wheat from these two countries has been affected. And as a result of this, there are many countries around the world which are dependent on the imports of wheat from these two countries. Now they are finding it very difficult to get access to wheat. And that is where India finds an opportunity now. This is a prime opportunity for India. Why? India is one of the major producers of wheat in the international market, as well as consumer of a wheat in the international market. That's the first point. Second point, if you look at these particular countries which are trying to find a new supplier of wheat in the market, there are certain Asian countries or ASEAN countries which are looking at them. There are certain Western Asian countries which are searching for these particular supplier. There are certain Southern Asian countries which are trying to find a new supplier. There are certain African countries which are trying to find a new supplier. And the advantage for India is, first one, because India is in proximity to these particular countries, it can easily supply wheat to these countries. Is it okay? Understand the point now. First advantage is what? India is in proximity, very near to these particular countries, it can easily supply to these countries. Second, because India is one of the major producers, there's a huge amount of wheat production which is lying with Food Corporation of India. Right? Around 21 million tons of wheat is actually procured by Food Corporation of India. Whereas the requirement, right, that is including buffer as well as operational stock, it is around 7.5 million tons requirement. So there's a huge surplus amount of wheat which is lying with FCI. So why don't we start exporting that? That is the reason APEDA, which is the prime organization or the organization related to promotion of agriculture exports, is trying to find out new exporters, or is trying to find out newer countries which want to import wheat from India. Next advantage, when you compare the exports of wheat from other countries, the price of it, and the price of India's wheat, this particular wheat which is exported from India is comparatively cheaper, and that will work in favor of India. And another advantage, very important advantage here is, whenever these particular exporters will export wheat, they tend to export in huge quantities. That is, whenever the importers will purchase, they are supposed to purchase a minimum volume of, let's say, 50,000 tons like this. Whereas India is willing to supply wheat even at lower volumes. Right? So these are some of the advantages that India wants to leverage and promote more and more wheat exports from India. In addition to this, in the context of Indian economy, what is the advantage? What is the benefit? Try and understand this. In the context of Indian economy, or let's say agriculture sector, as wheat prices in the international market have started rising up, the demand for wheat in the domestic market also is rising up. And when the demand increases, the market prices of wheat also have increased. This will provide a better opportunity for farmers to sell wheat and start earning better returns. That's the first one. Second one, exports from India of wheat will increase, so forex reserves will start flowing into India. And if you have seen the current situation in India where there is continuous outflow of dollars, any inflow of dollars is always a positive outcome, or let's say a very good outcome. Third one, right, with the context of government of India, or in the context of government of India, why this will provide a benefit to government of India? Please understand this. When the exports of wheat will start increasing, government of India's procurement of wheat in the domestic market need not be very high. As already mentioned, the total requirement is around 7.5 million tons, but the Food Corporation of India has actually purchased how much? More than 21 million tons. So government of India has paid a huge amount in the form of MSP to the farmers in procuring these particular wheat crops. Now if the market prices are higher than MSP, which is true currently for wheat in India, I'll repeat it, the market prices are higher compared to MSP. As a farmer who has cultivated this wheat, in order to earn better returns, I will sell it in the open market rather than selling it to government. And when government's procurement will come down, the MSP paid by the government will come down. And naturally, the subsidy bill that the government of India incurs, essentially the food subsidy bill that the government of India will incur, that will also come down. These are some of the advantages that are going to work in favor of India in the context of wheat market in the international situation. Done? So these are certain very important. Please be very careful. Let's go to the next article. The dollar rupee swap, which was announced very recently by Reserve Bank of India. Now some of you have already basically written to me saying that, sir, we are concerned about this particular concept. Rupee dollar swap, we are unable to understand. Just try to understand the basics first here. Right? What do you mean by swap? Swap means exchange. And what is being exchanged here? Dollar and rupee are getting exchanged. First and foremost, why this particular swap is being conducted? Here are certain very important points. In the last couple of months, because of, let's say, the Fed Reserve indicating a hike in the interest rate, because of the volatility in the international market, which is being fueled by the central bankers across the world, or because of the situation of Russia and Ukraine, the foreign investors have basically started withdrawing the dollars from the Indian market. And whenever this will happen, what essentially will take place in the forex market? Try to understand that. Here is a foreign investor. He has invested, let's say, in the equity market in India. Now this particular investor doesn't want to hold the investments in India. He wants to take out the investment, let's say, to USA. So what this investor will do? Sell the equity, take the rupees, convert or sell these particular rupees and purchase dollars and withdraw dollars from India or take out dollars from India. Has this been happening in Indian economy? Definitely yes. Right? So far in the month of March itself, more than 34,000 crore worth of the financial flows have actually gone out of India. And this will continue. Looking at what Federal Reserve will do in the coming days, looking at what is happening between Russia and Ukraine, this outflow of dollars will continue. But in the process of dollars flowing out of India, what will happen to Indian rupee? Rupee supply in the market will increase. When the rupee supply increases, rupee will start getting depreciated. Is it okay? Rupee will depreciate because supply is increasing and the dollar demand is increasing, dollar will appreciate. Now, whenever there is a continuous appreciation or depreciation in the rupee value, again please understand, it can work both the ways. Today rupee is getting depreciated. Will rupee appreciate continuously? Yes. It has earlier been seen in 2019 and 20 because of huge inflow of foreign investors, sudden inflow of dollars, rupee was continuously appreciating. So whenever in the forex market there is a continuous appreciation or continuous depreciation of a domestic currency like this, it is the Reserve Bank of India which will try to stabilize the exchange rate. Always remember this. It is the Reserve Bank of India which will try to stabilize. Do not write the term RBI will fix exchange rate. Because when you say RBI will fix exchange rate, you are not referring to a floating exchange rate mechanism. You are actually referring to a fixed exchange rate mechanism. And does India follow a fixed exchange rate mechanism? No, we have discarded it. We are actually using managed floating exchange rate. Okay, so understand this. How does RBI will intervene in the market and try to fix the exchange rate? The best example is the dollar rupee swap. Now what will happen under this? Follow the discussion here. Here is the dollar, here is the rupee, and here is a bank. Okay, dollar, rupee and bank. Now what is happening in the current situation? Dollars are continuously flowing out of India. All of us will agree with that. Dollars are continuously flowing out of India. Dollar is continuously appreciating, rupee is continuously depreciating. In the last couple of weeks itself, rupee has lost more than 2 rupee worth of value against a dollar. So there is a continuous depreciation that is being experienced by Indian rupee. So in this case, what does RBI do? What should RBI do? What do you think RBI should do? Dollar demand in the market is very high. Rupee supply is also very high. So RBI simply needs to withdraw rupees from the market, supply dollars to the market. I will repeat it, understand this. In the current situation where rupee supply in the market very high, dollar demand is also very high, dollar is withdrawn from India or taken out of India, rupee is continuously being supplied to the market. In this situation, what does RBI do? Exactly opposite to what the market is doing. In the market, rupee supply is increasing, dollar outflow is increasing. RBI will supply dollars to the market and take out rupee from the market. Is it okay? Right? And essentially this particular mechanism or the tool that is used by RBI is referred to as dollar rupee, right, buy and sell swap auction. Okay? Dollar rupee, right, sell buy swap auction. Right? And why I'm writing in this particular sequence, there is a reason. Whenever they write this particular sequence in the newspaper or let's say even in the UPSC question paper, it simply means dollars are being sold, rupees are being purchased. Now you'll ask me, sir, how does this happen? Very simple. Imagine you're a bank and I'm Reserve Bank of India. Okay, just hypothetical example. Okay, now what will happen under this is, I will simply sell dollars to you and I will take rupees from you. Is it okay? I will sell dollars and purchase rupees. But here are certain very important conditions. Whenever this particular dollar rupee swap auctions are conducted, these are conducted for certain fixed time period. Is it okay? These are conducted for certain fixed time period. For example, in the recent times, that is in the month of March, RBI has conducted this particular swap for a period of 3 years. Sorry, 2 years, not 3 years, 2 years. Earlier in 2019, same swap auction, right? But I'll come to that, just give me a second. Right? Similar type of a swap auction was conducted by RBI, but the tenure of that was for a period of 3 years. But please understand the difference here. Currently, the dollar demand is very high, rupee supply is very high. So RBI needs to take out rupees from the market. So what RBI does? RBI will sell the dollars, take the rupees from the market. Earlier in 2019, in the month of March as well as in April, RBI conducted the same swap but in a different way. At that point of a time, dollar supply was very high in the economy and rupee was continuously appreciating. Rupee demand was very high, right? And the rupee liquidity in the market was lesser. So at that point of time, what RBI did was exactly opposite of this. That is, RBI purchased dollars and sold rupees to the market in order to increase the liquidity. So understand this, RBI can either buy dollars, RBI can either sell dollars. But essentially what they do is, they are going to swap rupee to dollar. In case of a rupee demand being very high in the market, RBI will sell dollars. In case of just make a correction here. In case of rupee demand being very high, RBI will basically sell rupees, take out dollars from the market. In case of dollar demand being very high, RBI will sell dollars and take out the rupees. And what is the situation in India? Dollar demand is very high. Dollar is flowing out of India. Right? Rupee is continuously depreciating. And on the other hand, the total liquidity in the market is also very, very high. Remember this particular point also. The total liquidity, as per various estimates, the total liquidity in the banking sector is more than 7.5 lakh crore rupees. And that much amount of liquidity generally causes an inflationary trend. And you must have seen in the recent newspaper discussions, inflation is a cause for concern in case of Indian economy. So by conducting dollar-rupee swap auction, right, here what is RBI trying to achieve, or multiple objectives which are being achieved by RBI are: one, RBI will supply dollars to the market, take out rupees from the market. So rupee to dollar exchange rate will get stabilized. That is the first advantage. Second, the liquidity in the market is very, very high. And by basically taking out these particular rupees from the market, and some of you might be thinking, sir, how much does RBI take? Right? As per this particular various surveys, or let's say the newspaper articles, the $5 billion swap which was conducted by RBI will take out liquidity of more than 35 to 37,000 crores from the market. More than 35 to 37,000 crore worth of liquidity from the market. So once this is done, liquidity automatically will come down. And the third advantage, please be very, very careful. Right, the third advantage is, in the next couple of months we are expecting LIC IPO, and there have been certain newspaper articles which have connected LIC IPO with this particular swap conducted by RBI. Some of you will be confused, sir, where is LIC, where is RBI swap, how both are connected? Very simple. Under LIC IPO, which is supposed to be conducted in the next month, we expect huge amount of foreign investors to bring dollars into India, because they want to invest, they want to earn money. Obviously they will come to India, start investing in the shares of LIC under the IPO. And when the dollars will flow into India, what will happen? The rupee supply will increase, because dollars cannot be invested in the stock market. They need to first convert the dollars into rupees. So rupee supply to the market will increase. And as such, I've already told you, liquidity is very high in Indian economy. So RBI expects that when LIC IPO will be conducted, further liquidity infusion will take place. The liquidity will increase. Preemptively, RBI is taking this particular measure to reduce the liquidity in the current situation itself. So these are some of the very important advantages that are associated with this particular dollar-rupee swap auction which was conducted very recently by RBI. Now based on this, I have given a question here. Which of the following is or are likely outcomes of dollar-rupee sell and buy swap conducted by RBI? Please be very careful with respect to this particular term, because when I say dollar-rupee sell and buy swap, it essentially means dollars are being sold, rupees are being purchased by RBI, which is different from saying dollar-rupee buy and sell swap. Right? In the second case, what will happen? Dollars will be bought by RBI and rupees will be sold by RBI. So impact will be different. Please be very, very careful with respect to what terminologies are used in the UPSC prelims examination. So first one, rupee liquidity will come down in the system. This is one of the expected outcomes, because if rupees are purchased by RBI, automatically rupee supply in the market will come down. Rupee depreciation will be controlled. Right? Will you be able to control the rupee depreciation? Definitely yes, that is what RBI is trying to do here. Increase the supply of dollars in the economy, because RBI is selling dollars, automatically supply of dollars in the market will increase. All the three are correct. Right option will be option D, 1, 2 and 3. Let me go to the next article. 3 states have finally decided to allow the trade of agriculture produce outside the mandis. Now, what is the importance of this particular article? Go back 3 or 4 months ago, Government of India had proposed to implement, or had basically passed, 3 agriculture laws. I hope you remember that, right? the 3 agriculture laws were passed by the government, and one of these particular agriculture laws had a provision wherein the farmers will decide to sell the crops either in the mandi or outside the mandi. I'll repeat the statement. One of the very important provision within these particular 3 laws was the farmer will decide where the crop should be sold either within the mandi or outside the mandi. And when the farmer will sell the crop outside the mandi, the APMC will not have any right to impose cesses or let's say charges on such a sale which is conducted outside the mandi. And finally what happened? The government of India decided to withdraw these particular 3 agriculture laws. That is history now. What is there in the current affairs? The 3 states, right? There are 3 states which are Rajasthan, Gujarat and Karnataka, which have basically taken the same reform from the central law and they have notified these particular reforms. And you will ask me, sir, is it a problem? Absolutely no. State governments will have every right to notify the agriculture laws like this. Now have a look at this. These particular 3 states, what they have done is essentially they have stated that certain crops or certain agriculture produce, now they can be sold outside the mandis and the government will not be imposing any kind of a levies or charges on such transactions which are conducted outside the mandis. And what is the expected outcome? Generally, why government pushes for these kinds of reforms? Very simply put forward, the farmer now will have the right or let's say the option to sell the crop either in the mandi or outside the mandi. Now some of you might be thinking, sir, what kind of advantage is it? If the prices of the commodity are higher in the outside mandi, the farmer will decide to sell it in the outside mandi. Or if the price of the commodity is much higher within the APMC mandi, then the farmer can simply decide to sell it within the mandi itself. And the best or the additional advantage here is, in addition to the farmer choosing to sell the crop either within or outside the APMC mandi, if the crop is sold outside the APMC mandi, the state government or the APMC shall not impose any of the charges on such transactions. And please remember this is also very important. Why? Whenever, right, let's take a sequence here, you will understand. Here is the farmer, here is the trader, and this particular trader will sell it to, let's say, another retailing company, and this particular retailing company will sell it to a customer. Now imagine a situation wherein the farmer will sell it to a trader, trader will sell it to retailing company. The taxes or charges are imposed by the government here as well as here. I'm using the term taxes, but generally in the context of APMC we'll use the term user fees, right? APMC charges, etc. So have a look at this. Whenever the farmer will sell it to, let's say, a trader, the APMC will impose, right, the APMC mandi fees on this. As a result of this, the trader would have paid money plus the charges to APMC. Now when the trader will sell the crop to retailing company, don't you think because he has paid certain charges to APMC, he will basically transfer those particular charges to retailing company? And when the retailing company will purchase the crops from the trader, including the mandi fees as well as the user fees, they will also transfer those particular charges to customers. So ultimately it is me and you who will bear the burden of these particular the charges or let's say the mandi fees or user fees like this. So when the government announces that you can sell outside the mandi and you do not have to pay any levy on that, you can expect this kind of a benefit to be availed in the market. That is, when there are no charges, the retailing companies and now they do not have to pay charges or let's say mandi fees, and the cost of procurement for them automatically will come down, which they can transfer to the customers or let's say buyers, end buyers in the market. So these are some of the very, very important points related to this particular reform announced by 3 states. Next article, just information here. Interest Equalization Scheme, IES. IES was announced in the Foreign Trade Policy 2015-2020. That's the first point. Foreign Trade Policy 2015-2020, it had a provision for Interest Equalization Scheme. Under the Interest Equalization Scheme, what is generally provided? To the manufacturer exporters, right, either from MSME or notified commodities under this particular scheme, certain benefit or let's say incentives are provided. And when I say incentives, please do not misunderstand my statement here. This incentive is not given in the form of cash to the manufacturer, rather the interest that this particular manufacturer has to pay to a bank, that is essentially export credit loans. Is it okay? A manufacturer, let's say exporter, will take loan from a bank, that is pre-shipment and post-shipment export loans. On those particular loans, certain amount of interest deduction is made. That is, let's say hypothetically, I'm just giving a hypothetical example here. Here is an exporter XYZ, he will take loan from a bank and the bank will charge, let's say, 6% rate of interest, again hypothetical number. Government of India will basically tell the bank, part of this particular interest will be paid to the bank by Government of India. And because part of interest will be paid by the Government of India, the bank will be charging a lower rate of interest on the loans given to this particular exporter. That is the concept of interest equalization scheme. Now, why it is there in the newspaper? Very simply put, it was part of FTP. FTP, understand this, has been extended. Now there is a discussion, should we continue with even interest equalization scheme? It has been extended last year. Now, right, what has been announced is, RBI has announced that this particular interest equalization scheme will continue till March 2024. That is the latest information. Please remember this. Sir, why this becomes an information? Very simply put forward. Government of India is expected to announce a new foreign trade policy in any time soon. Is it okay? Right? We expect Government of India to announce a new foreign trade policy. At that point of time, there was a concern amongst exporters that government might simply withdraw this particular scheme, as a result of which cost of credit for these exporters would start increasing. Right? There has been a full stop to these particular concerns with this announcement by RBI that this will continue till the end of March 2024. Right? So that is the update related to interest equalization scheme. Next, right, one international relations article here. Sri Lanka has a devalued rupee, which has been seen by various experts as a step towards seeking IMF help. Now, what are the important points here? First and foremost, please understand, some of you might be thinking, why is Sri Lanka seeking help from IMF? Why not from World Bank? World Bank is also an international lending institution, or let's say multilateral lending institution. So why is Sri Lanka looking at IMF? Why not at World Bank? Very simply put, whenever a country faces BOP crisis like this, they generally tend to take assistance from International Monetary Fund. And what is happening in Sri Lanka? Simply put, understand this, the forex reserves of Sri Lanka are drying out. Have you understand this? They are about to exhaust the forex reserves that they have. And when you exhaust, or you simply do not have any of these particular forex reserves, you need to pay loans, right, to the international community. Let's say you've borrowed from someone, right, let's say government of USA or government of China, you need to pay loan to them. Or you've borrowed from World Bank, you need to pay loan to the World Bank. So you have certain debt in the international market, you need to satisfy or repay this particular loan. Now, if you do not have a dollars, how will you repay the loan? That's the first one. Right? What about paying for imports? What about paying for imports? Right? You as a country, you are importing a lot of goods as well as services. You are importing a lot of finished goods. You are importing capital machinery. So you need to have dollars to pay for these particular imports. And if you simply exhaust your forex reserves, where will you have the dollars to pay for the imports? Now, some of you might be thinking, sir, why don't they print dollars? Please understand, you are Sri Lanka. You are not allowed to print dollars. Right? Again, don't say, sir, you are denigrating Sri Lanka. Take for example India also. Are we allowed to print dollars in India? Absolutely no. It is Federal Reserve which will do that. Right? Because these dollars are printed there. Right? Indian government, you cannot simply say you have printing machines. Let's start printing dollars. You are not allowed to do that. So understand the problem here. The forex reserves of Sri Lanka are actually drying out, or they are about to exhaust all of it. And they have huge amount of a loan to repay, and they are struggling to pay for imports also. At this point of time, Sri Lanka has announced that they are going to devalue their currency. Is it okay? They are going to devalue their currency. How much? From 200 rupees for every dollar, from 200 rupees against Sri Lankan rupees, this has been devalued to 230 rupees. That is by 15%. And many of the experts have stated that this particular 15% devaluation is not sufficient. Sri Lankan government has to do more in order to get the assistance from IMF. And generally, what is the connection here? Why devaluation is generally connected with IMF as such? Has India conducted devaluation in the past? Yes, India has also conducted devaluation in the past. The best example, 1991. In 2 rounds, India conducted devaluation, right? And after that, we took assistance from IMF. And what is the impact of devaluation? And some of you might be thinking, sir, why are you saying devaluation? Right? Why cannot I use a depreciation term here? Always remember this. When the government, or let's say the central bank, announces an exchange rate, have you understand this? Under the fixed exchange rate mechanism, when the government or the central bank fixes an exchange rate and reduces the value of the domestic currency against a foreign currency, we refer to that as a devaluation. Whereas the market forces of supply and demand will determine the exchange rate, we will use the term appreciation and depreciation. And now look at what we have discussed just a couple of minutes ago. In the context of India, I stated that because of sudden outflow of dollars like this, there is a continuous rupee depreciation. I did not say there is a continuous devaluation of the currency, right? So please be very, very careful with respect to these particular terms. Now the question is, why do countries go for devaluation? A simple outcome of this is the imports will become costlier. Have you understand this? Imports will become costlier. And when the imports will become costlier, we expect, right, the imports to come down. That is, the importers will reduce the imports because they have become very, very costlier. So the dollar outflow will come down. That's the first one. Second one is, what about exports? Whenever you devalue your currency or rupee depreciates or devalues, the exports will become more competitive. You can promote more and more exports from this country to rest of the world. As a result of this, dollars will come into the country. Now the forex reserves can be increased. And the third advantage, remittances. Remember this. The third advantage is remittances. And this is not just applicable to Sri Lanka as such, it is applicable even in the context of India. That is, generally when the domestic currency loses value against a foreign currency. Understand this. Whenever the domestic currency loses value against a foreign currency, there are certain high net worth individuals in the foreign market who wish to leverage this situation. For example, imagine, right, I'm working in a foreign country and rupee continuously depreciates against a dollar. Now I will bring a lot of remittances to India, invest in the Indian banking sector, invest in real estate in India, etc. Why? Right, because for every dollar I can get more rupees in India now. I can understand this, right? I can get more rupees for every dollar because there is a devaluation or a depreciation of the domestic currency. Apply the same logic even in the context of Sri Lanka. With the devaluation, they expect huge amount of remittances to come into the country, and which has basically dried out or which has reduced in the last couple of years. They expect to receive huge amount of remittances, will add to forex reserves. Using this, they can basically address the issue of depletion in the forex reserves. So these are some of the very important aspects related to rupee devaluation which was announced by Sri Lanka very, very recently. Next article is related to energy target. Very recently, Government of India has announced a 25-year plan or a 25-year strategy, under which what they have proposed is, over a period of time, they will increase renewable energy capacity in India. That's the first point. And reduce the coal production facility in India or coal production capacity in India. As per the data or as per this particular plan which has been put forward, that is plan 2047. Right? Why specifically 2047? Very simply put forward, right? 100 years of independence. Is it okay? 100 years of independence. So by 2047, the total amount of the electricity production capacity in India will be 1325 gigawatts. Is it okay? 1325 gigawatts. And out of this, Government of India has put a strategy wherein they want to have 1125 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. Is it okay? Right? Out of 1325 gigawatts, we will have 1125 gigawatts of renewable energy. Right, sir, should I mug up this? These numbers look very daunting, very difficult for me. In that case, simply remember, right now the target, or let's say right now the contribution of renewable energy sector to total production in India is 39%. And by 2047, we want to increase it to 85%. We want to increase it to 85%. And what about the coal production capacity? Right now more than 53% actually comes from the coal segment as such. We want to reduce it to 10.5% by 2047. Reduce it to 10%, or let's say I'll just round off the number 10%, and increase the renewable energy capacity, right, which will account for more than 85% or around 85% of total energy capacity in India. How that will be done? The government of India in this particular strategy says that till 2030, right, mind you, remember this, till 2030 we'll keep on adding coal production capacity in India. Till 2030 we will keep on constructing coal thermal power plants in India. Right now we have 210 gigawatts of capacity in the coal segment or coal sector. We will increase it to 267 gigawatts by 2030, and thereafter, after that we will not add any capacity there. Right, we'll simply keep on phasing out those particular coal plants which will become old. Right, phasing out will be conducted, and by 2047 we will reduce this 267 gigawatts to 140 gigawatts. Is it okay? We will reduce this particular 267 gigawatts to 140 gigawatts from the coal segment as such. What about the remaining 1125 gigawatts from renewable energy, 10 gigawatts right from gas, and remaining 50 gigawatts will be from nuclear energy. Nuclear energy currently accounts for around 7 gigawatts of production capacity. We want to increase it to 50 gigawatts by 2047. So this is the plan target, or let's say strategy, which has been put forward by Government of India for the next 25 years. And for this strategy to be met, Government of India has announced that a total of more than 60 lakh crore rupees worth of investment shall be done in this particular segment. So this is very, very important. Please remember this particular data. The last article for the day is National Land Monetization Corporation, NLMC. Now what is this National Land Monetization Corporation? Right, understand the simple concepts here. Earlier Government of India has announced, right, National Monetization Pipeline, NMP, National Monetization Pipeline, under which brownfield assets worth 6 lakh crore rupees will be leased out in the next couple of years. And by leasing out these particular assets, government will be able to generate huge amount of money which can be used for development of infrastructure in India. And a lot of this particular expenditure, or let's say a lot of this particular revenue that is raised, will be used to develop National Infrastructure Pipeline, NIP. Now in order to achieve this, very recently Government of India has announced that it will be setting up National Land Monetization Corporation, NLMC, which will be under the purview of Ministry of Finance. Is it okay? It will work under Ministry of Finance. Now please be very careful. I am using the term Ministry of Finance, and in UPSC, just to confuse you people, he will use Department of Public Enterprises, DPE. Right? Is DPE part of Ministry of Finance? Yes. Earlier it was under Industries, and now this has been brought under Ministry of Finance. Please be very, very careful. Right? So DPE is the authority or the department under which NLMC will actually work. Now what is the role of NLMC? There are public sector enterprises which are going to be shut down in the next couple of years, or which have lot of land which they want to give it away under lease basis under the National Monetization Pipeline. So NLMC will identify the land which is underutilized, unutilized, and which is not part of core assets for Indian government, and basically will transfer the ownership under itself and will basically lease out this particular land parcel to the investors in the market. For example, imagine here is a private sector company. It needs a certain amount of land in a region, but that particular land is under one of the public sector enterprise, and public sector enterprise doesn't have any utility of this particular land. So that land will be brought under NLMC, and this will lease out the land to the private sector for certain time period. And this private sector, for using the land, will pay money to the Government of India. This is what is being proposed under the concept of National Land Monetization Corporation. Done? Right, so these are certain very important points related to this. I have given an MCQ here. Consider the following statements regarding NLMC. Will be majorly owned by the public sector banks. Statement is wrong. It will be completely owned by the central government. Remember this. That's the first statement, which is wrong. Second one, it will be under administrative jurisdiction of Ministry of Urban Development. Wrong, under Ministry of Finance. Done. Both the statements are wrong. Right option is option D, neither 1 nor 2 is correct. So these are the various articles as well as the questions related to these articles which have appeared between 5th of March to 11th of March 2022. If you like this initiative, please hit the like button and provide your valuable comments in the section below. And if you have not yet subscribed to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, kindly do. Thank you. Have a great day.